Got our tickets, heading through this awesome security line here at DIA. Headed somewhere warmer today.
A little bit. Hey guys, Doug here from Motion. We're here today at Faster Proms down in Florida. We flew down here to help Garrett with Leroy. They were about to run out of fuel on Leroy and they want to go faster yet this year, so we hooked them up with our new mechanical fuel pump setup. First one on any car in the country, and we're helping them install it. All right guys, so Leroy is here in the background, and we decided to use a driver's side bracket because it shoots the cable more straight towards where we're trying to go ultimately. These cables can't be flexed a whole lot. They can be bent on like a 6-inch radius, which is actually a pretty big radius. So you always want to have the cables as straight as possible. If you guys have never seen a cable drive, basically this bracket and pulley is going to be what mounts the front of the LS engine. This is our new bracketry system we have. This is our driver's side and this is our passenger side. This cable, basically the pulley is going to turn the cable and then the cable is going to turn the pump, but in a remote location. So that's the difference. This bracket can be used to either mount a pump right to the back of it or to be driven as a cable drive for going to the back of the car. And the reason why we do the cable drive is because instead of trying to pull fuel, you'll be pushing fuel. So if we put the pump where the fuel cell is, it's not trying to pull fuel as far. So the pump would be working and not working that well if it was trying to pull that much fuel through a 16 AN line that far. So we got a driver's side, we got a passenger side option. The next thing is we made our own pulleys for this system. So we use a hub that's on the back of the ATI balancer on this Corvette. And the Corvette has a 28 tooth HTD hub. So these pumps are basically made to spin like 4,000 RPM. That's what they're rated to flow at. If you overspin them, they actually start to cavitate and have issues. So you always want to keep the RPM at your max RPM, or the RPM you're going to be using, like 4,000 RPM. So it's a 28 tooth HTD pulley on the actual car on Leroy. So we actually have to have a 56, we have a 58 tooth HTD pulley. So that'll keep us, you know, he shifts the thing right at what, like 7,600, so it'll keep us right underneath that 4,000. Now, the pump that's going on Leroy is 12 gallon per minute, so it's going to be a ton of pump. They're going to really be able to grow into it, so we're not quite as concerned, but we definitely don't want to overspin it because that's just kind of pointless to do. So for this application, we have a 58 tooth. We also have a 50 tooth, which will be common on the LS1, like F-body stuff. They have a 25 tooth HTD pulley, so it's basically 2-to-1 ratio. So this some dooski. So this pulley bracket will be going back onto Leroy, and we'll be installing the keyway. There's a little set screw location right here in the actual pulley itself, so it'll lock onto the keyway, and then as they run the engine, it'll run. And then you guys have like a primer pump on this thing, Garrett?
Fuel pump. Factory fuel pump, still gonna be rocking live.
Yeah, so one of the things is these guys didn't want to have to like crank this thing over 1,000,000 times because they drive the heck out of it. So that'll help it start up, and then as soon as it starts up, the mechanical will take over and run all the other stuff, hopefully. So we just like teed it into the fuel rail, right?
Yep, it's teed into our factory Corvette. The original 01 fuel pump is still in this car, and we're gonna rock that because hopefully on like race week and stuff, we're gonna disconnect the mechanical, drive around on the stock pump, and then turn the mechanical back on at the track, also connected to a new fuel cell. So we got a little bit of a plan.
It's experimental, but it'll work.
I hope. We'll find out, you know.
Yep. So this system actually needs a 16 AN feed line. The next size pump after this actually needs a 20 AN fuel line. So you can see that stuff's huge, and you'll see underneath the car, it's just a big feed line. And then we're running 10 up and 10 back. So we're underneath Leroy right now, and we're progressing through the fuel system. We got our cable drive bracket mounted, so the pump is actually going to mount directly to this and then feed off the tank. And then we're going to use this type of a cable right here to basically turn the pump from the pulley that we made for our bracket system on the front. So it'll turn the pulley on the front, and this cable will turn the rotation back here, which will turn the pump. And the reason why we do that is so that you're not trying to pull fuel the full length of the car. You're just trying to pull it that small length and then you're just pumping it the rest of the way, which is easier for a pump to do. So if you come to the front, you got the cable bracket there, and then our new Motion Raceworks bracketry system bolts right to the front of this LSX block on Leroy. It uses an ATI rear hub that we can get for a Corvette, an F-body, any of that stuff. And then we have a custom pulley with a custom tooth count, and we kind of use a mix of an aeromotive bracket and our billet bracket that bolts to the block. And we have that for both the driver and passenger side. We actually chose to use the driver's side on this car because it was more of a straight shot for the cable, so it worked out better and ran into less stuff. And that's why we have both sides, actually. And when in Rome, you gotta drink some Mountain Dew.
Hell yeah, brother.
So everything's mounted here. As you can see, I talked about earlier, there's a hub that bolts on the back of an ATI balancer. Now we can sell the balancer with that already mounted on it, or if you already have an ATI balancer, give us a call or check out our website. We have just the hub that bolts to the back, and that's what drives this belt. It's a cog belt also. It's actually an HTD is what's called. Now, one of the things I get questions about are how tight this thing should be, because you know, guys are trying to tighten them like they're a 5-rib belt. Since they're like a cog style belt, they have teeth, they don't have to be nearly as tight as a factory style belt or a 5-rib belt or a V belt. So general rule of thumb, if you can turn this thing 90 degrees with ease, that's perfect. If you can't, it's too tight, and if you can fold it back like past that to where it basically flips completely over, it's too loose. So that's a good way, or a good rule of thumb for setting up the tightness and the tension on this belt.
Alrighty guys, check it out. So we have our cable on and it is ran. And the trick is you don't want to make any really hard turns. We did have to make some turns, but we tried to keep it one smooth line. So it kind of comes around here. We kept it as smooth as possible. And it goes right into our aeromotive pump down here. So the less turns you make, the easier it is on the cables. Ladies and gents, welcome to Tech Tips with Cleeter and Yames. Upon further investigation to our fuel system here, James, take the light. You can see our cable, which is right here, was ran all the way down here to here, and it was ran to here, right? And it sure as heck was spinning this thing, but there was a missing piece between this
and this.
So turns out our fuel pump was not on at all. So this, which we found in a box, an aeromotive box they supplied, this goes right on there, and then that fills the gap between the pump and the cable. Back together she goes. We have hopefully repaired the issue.
We have.
I'm betting you anything that when we start this thing, it's gonna make all the pressure, because we have the fuel pressure regulator set as high as it goes. So we should probably turn that down before we do anything.
Yeah, that's gonna be step one.
Motion Raceworks setting us up with the new fuel system. There's so much freaking fuel pressure now. We got a fuel system for plenty of power. If we want to go to 40 pounds of boost
and then shut the gates, we're good.
We're gonna have enough fuel pressure for it. So
hey guys, back at the shop. We had to come back to cold Iowa, but we want to give a special thanks to Cooper, Garrett, and James for letting us come down there and play around and work on Leroy, install our new fuel pump setup. They kicked my ass in go-karts, but Garrett and Leroy have since gone 7 seconds with the fuel system, and it's got plenty of fuel pressure. No longer are they maxing out injector duty cycles, so I think our job here is done. A few other customers of ours have been trying out these new fuel systems, and they absolutely love them. If you yourself would like one, we are now officially releasing our mechanical fuel pump line for the LS series, and we have them coming out very soon for the Coyote, the LT, and everything else. With the rise of ethanol and methanol and all these cars making all this extra power, we think it's going to be a huge benefit to have a nice little bracketry system that bolts right onto your setup now or the setup you're about to build. And it definitely makes life easier. You can install it in an afternoon or a day or two or a weekend, and no longer will you be battling the fuel pump blues. You can't go faster because you don't have enough fuel pump. If you've never seen Garrett's videos before, I suggest you tune into their channel. Always entertaining. They have a little bit of race car with a little bit of the craziness that they have going on at their shop, and it's always a good time hanging out with those guys. Well, we got a link in the description to all of his videos and a new 7-second pass, so stay tuned.